Alright, so I don't know why my hair is looking like so fluffy today, but this is what we're working with, so we're gonna just keep going and deal with it. So in today's vlog, I want to talk about what the surgery found, like what were the findings from surgery. Dr. McGurk, my endo doctor, went over everything at my pre-op appointment that she found. So I have both her notes from the I have notes from both the surgery and also notes from that pre-op appointment, and I'm going to be sharing a lot because I think that this is so important to raise awareness about. Yes, it's like personal information, and I'm not going to share everything, but I think it's really important to raise awareness about all of this. So it's going to kind of be a piecemeal vlog of me like going through my notes and then sharing stuff that I think other people might find helpful. I'm probably going to say something wrong. I'm not a medical professional. This is just my understanding of it. So let's get into it. First of all, and again, this might be TMI for some people, and then you don't have to watch, and that's fine. But I'm just gonna use like medical terms. My cervix was really tight, and she said that endometriosis can actually seal the cervix, and that can add to discomfort and pain because your blood from your period couldn't come through at like a normal flow. So she basically opened that up, and so hopefully that will help with some pain. So I actually had minimal endometrial tissue where it wasn't supposed to be. So I had stage 1 endometriosis. However, Dr. McGurk does something that most other endo doctors, as far as I know, don't do. And it's something that is not categorized yet. So let me explain. So there is endometrial tissue, and then there is also fibrotic tissue, and she said normally your peritoneum is like cellophane wrap and you can just put your fingers over it. If you did, not sanitary, but if you did, it would just kind of come away like little cobwebs. Sorry, someone came down our driveway and I went inside because I don't have a mask on, and so don't know where I was. But I think I was talking about the peritoneum being like cellophane wrap. And when she said that her patients with endometriosis, their peritoneum tissue becomes fibrotic, which means it just like kind of becomes solid, and then it becomes adhesions, and then it doesn't let stuff move. So it's basically like endometrial tissue with the adhesions, but it's not. It's like the peritoneum, I think. Could be saying that wrong, but approximately along those lines. And there's no staging system like stage 1 of endo, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 3, and stage 4 of endo are adhesions. But there's nothing like that for the fibrotic tissue, unfortunately. So basically, if we're coming up with our own system, I had stage 3 and 4 fibrotic tissue where everything was like fused together and adhered and stuck together. But that's not how it works in the endometrial world right now. But hopefully stuff like changes, because she said most endo doctors will go in and be like, oh, there's only a tiny little bit of endo, and then they won't unstick the rest of it, of the fibrotic tissue, and then people continue to have, like patients continue to have pain. And so I'm really grateful I went to her because I definitely feel a lot better so far and less stuck together inside. So yeah, I pretty much had minimal endo. It was around my cul-de-sac, and I had the brown lesions there. So that's like stage 1 endo are the lesions. But the back of my uterus had a lot of like inflammation. And so she found like so many things, right? Like the cervix is not standard. The cervix being like really tight and almost sealed shut. That's not standard. She said that that's not common. And so she found like so many things that weren't necessarily endo, but that the endo caused, in her opinion and in her experience. So the left side of my bowel was horribly adherent. There was a lot of adhesions, and she said that like there were a bunch of adhesions around my parabolic gutter, and that was causing nausea. And I do have a lot less nausea since then. I had nausea earlier last week. I think that was one of the meds was actually causing the nausea, but from the endo, I felt like my nausea was different since the surgery. So the nausea that the endo was causing, I feel like that's gotten a lot better, which is like crazy to say. So she said like really my bowel would be trying to move, and because it was so adhered, it just can't move well at all. It's like taking a snake and sticking it to the wall and making a snake like non-functional. And so the sharp stabbing pains I've been having, those would be the bowel pain. So she said going forward, like stay hydrated, eat clean food, make good choices. Body will tell you when you've made a bad choice, really. So yeah, both of my fallopian tubes had adhesions on the end. So she cleaned up the sidewalls like below the uterus, and that was the fibrotic tissue, not the endometrial tissue, but the fibrotic tissue is caused by the endo, in her opinion. So she also mentioned that the endo causes fibrosis, but also scarring. So there's a ton of scar tissue in there that was either, I wasn't quite clear if it was past endometrial tissue or if it was past fibrotic tissue that has just now become scarred. A lot of the scarring, I think, was causing stuff to be stuck together or not move well. And so that was a huge problem, was just the scarring itself as well. She said the peritoneum is scarred and hard, so it's like pinching all the time, and that doesn't go away unless you unstick it and be where we are now. So she said definitely getting my blood sugar more like flat and more neutral and not super high or low would be good. That's kind of where the intermittent fasting comes in, that she suggests not eating a lot of sugars or carbs or blah 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 blah. But it's all a balance, right? It's a balance of everything, and so I'm trying to do some intermittent fasting. I'm really not hungry. Since the surgery, I've not been hungry, and that's strange. So whenever I'm taking meds, I will take food with the meds because otherwise they cannot sit as well in my stomach, and then I'll have like a breakfast meal and then one other meal during the day, and that's really all I'm doing. I'm kind of listening to my body, and my body will sometimes get nauseous, and that tells me that I'm hungry. But she said that that wasn't normal, like that was like pre-diabetic. So we'll see, but she really encouraged me to do the intermittent fasting. But all the research I've done on intermittent fasting says to also not do the same time frame every day. So I'm kind of mixing it up a little bit, but trying to keep the like 16-8 fasting schedule, and sometimes not succeeding, and that's okay. That's why it becomes kind of not the same every day, and that's what's best actually. And to not eat the same foods every day. She also said that that was good. And Dr. Mindy Peltz, I believe is her name, is the person that she like referred me to watch her YouTube videos, and those are where I've gotten a lot of that information on fasting from as well. So she said a lot of also the pain I'm feeling now might be that like when you're in pain, you're protecting yourself. So you're pulling your muscles tight. You're maybe preparing for there to be pain in movements that would have given me pain before. And now maybe I don't have pain in, or maybe I have a little bit of pain in, but I'm preparing myself still for that chronic excruciating pain. And so like that should get better over time, fingers crossed. There was also a ton of, I believe, fibrotic tissue around and scarring around my ureter, and what that means is that I would have had a lot of lower back pain, and I did. So that was consistent with her findings, is that my lower back pain was probably from everything being around the ureter. I was very interested in what this would mean for fertility in the future. I would like to have kids, maybe just one, I don't know, but I'm interested in my fertility. And so she said that like really we won't know where my fertility levels are. None of her findings showed like she didn't have to remove parts of the, you know, fallopian tubes or any of my reproductive area that would then cause fertility issues. So going forward, we would just have to kind of, when I'm ready to have kids, assess my fertility and do all the tests then. So I found in my notes where she talked about the peritoneum, it should be like saran wrap, but now because of the endo, you have to cut it out because it's so tight in your body, and you should be able to take 2 fingers and like wipe it off, and you just can't because it's fibrotic. And in her experience, that's because of the endo, and other doctors will go in and not even do anything with that and just take out the endometrial tissue. So she said to think of the scars as a form of fibrosis, and it like repairs abnormally, and that's what causes it, which is very interesting. She said that my acne is from my blood sugar level. Not sure about that yet. I still have to do a lot of testing on that because I've been on so many crazy diets before that were like clean eating, and I've still had cystic scarring acne, and my acne has gotten a lot worse. It's hard to tell. If I run my finger on my skin, there's all these little bumps. There's a lot of deep cystic acne, and that's been really bad in the last year since I've gone off of birth control, which I was taking to control my adult acne. I've only had acne since I've been an adult, or really, really bad acne. And so I'm nervous about that because she said I couldn't go back on birth control because it won't be effective now because of the meds I'm going to be taking the rest of my life to suppress the endometrial tissue and the fibrotic tissue. So that is definitely a concern, and the acne is like something I'm going to have to figure out something to try helping that, I guess, starting with the gut. So fingers crossed I can figure something out with that. She said that like any skin lesions are telling what's going on in the gut, and our inflammation markers like dairy and gluten are issues. Don't use fake sugars, eat European cheeses, breads that are clean and have like only 4 ingredients and go bad in 4 days. You don't know that they don't have preservatives. And she just said like the gut is like the immune system. So I don't know, I'm gonna have to do a lot more research and kind of some trial and error on that, I think. She said that my IBS should be better. So far since surgery it hasn't been. So for example, when I feel the need to have a bowel movement, I need to go now, not in 30 seconds, not in a minute. I need to go right now, or I won't be able to go, or I'll have severe like stomach pain because I've missed my window, and it's like a very, very, very tiny window. So she said that that should get better because this was such a major surgery. I mean, she said most people will be in the hospital for days after the surgery years ago, and now they just send people home so that they can avoid getting infections. They're in a comfortable environment, etc., etc. They found that that's more helpful and inducive to like recovery and healing. But what that means is that, you know, people might not think that this is as much of a major surgery when it is. And really, I think I'll be recovering for months and seeing where my new normal is and where my new symptom level is. So that is definitely going to be interesting. But back to the IBS, she said like when you eat something bad, your body will tell you and you'll know, and then you'll have to not eat that thing again. So that's good to know. So yeah, again, she said the fibrosis isn't, they don't have stages for that unfortunately, but it was everywhere. She said the symptoms were so bad and it was all over the inside of my body, and that was probably even worse than the endometrial tissue itself, was the fibrotic tissue. But the meds that I'm on will also suppress the fibrotic tissue as well. She said people with endometriosis have a very high pain tolerance. A lot of them are athletes. I was an athlete before I got really sick. I was playing 4 sports the summer I got sick, and she said that athletes with their pain will see pain as like a hurdle. So they're really good with having a high pain tolerance because they have like a different mindset about it, I guess. She said that 2 distinct lesions were endo. Only one of them came back endo, but if they tested more of the tissue, she said they would have found it. Just in her like experience, definitely 2 of them were endo. She said I had mucousy stuff on my uterine wall that caused the inflammation. That was from the endo, so she just cut it off and coagulated it, or like cauterized it. I'm not sure if there's a difference there, but yeah. She said that people with endometriosis have higher risks of cardiovascular disease and cancer, and so that is definitely very concerning. I guess I will need to really keep an eye on those things. We didn't really get into like long-term how to decrease those things. My skin is so red, it's reflecting my pants, which are red. We didn't really get into like long-term how to decrease those things, so I think that'll be an ongoing after my recovery is through, after I've kind of hit a new baseline, talking to her about how to decrease those things. But I'm pretty sure with cardiovascular disease, just eating as healthy as possible, not eating a lot of meats. And then with cancer, I guess just getting cancer screenings. But she said to be outside in the sun as much as possible. She said get 30 to 45 minutes of sun, no blockers or anything, just probably not at like the peak of the day, so I'm gonna get sunburned. Don't get sunburned, but just show as much skin as possible, and that is part of my healing and recovery and really good for my body. Oh, for the cancer, she did say eat well, fast, you know, intermittent fast. Cancer cells love sugar, so don't eat sugar, eat clean food. Once again, she said it's not normal to have to eat every 2 hours, which I already said, then you'll become diabetic. And so she said to do the fasting, which stabilizes your blood sugar and gets rid of the extra sugar, because your body burns like the fat cells and gets rid of the extra sugar. Everything will be easier now because the surgery is done, which I am finding, and I'm really excited for all of this recovery. My whole body has been used to pain, so pain management. I have been straining, you know, to sit up or strain to do different things because I've been in so much pain, and so like my muscular skeletal stuff will be different. Like everything will take time to get used to muscles that I wasn't using before because I was in only certain positions that didn't give me pain, etc. So that is going to be really interesting with my recovery as well. If anyone is interested, to like comment below like what you'd be interested in seeing going forward with me with my recovery. I'll just share kind of what I think is useful or realizations I've found. But if you specifically have, like, tell me, you know, how your fasting journey is going or anything in the recovery of this that would be helpful, like let me know, and I'll try to specifically keep track of that going forward. So yeah, that's pretty much the results, without going into like the actual operating report of like surgical terms and the surgical instruments they used, which I'm not gonna lie was terrifying. I did Google those and some of them look like guns, like really long pointed needles that look like a gun, or they have really scary like hooked, you know, cutting tools on the end instruments. All of that is terrifying. And also big news, I popped a stitch. That's going to be an entire vlog next time, and also talking more about the recovery. I just wanted to have a whole vlog on the findings, but that's been, first of all, very scary because I was bleeding and it was my umbilical stitch, which means that my umbilical, like my belly button looks huge, and if you look down in there, I swear to God, you are seeing my organs. You're not, but it was terrifying. So I'm gonna go into that next time. But this was really the findings. I think a lot of this is really helpful. Hopefully, fingers crossed. If you have any other questions, comment them below. But yeah, thank you for listening. I'm really hoping that some of this can help other people either going into their surgery or trying to piece together like what to expect from surgery or what doctor to go look for, because like the doctor said, other doctors aren't doing this fibrotic tissue stuff, and that was huge. That's a game changer. So definitely looking forward to hearing your thoughts, and hope you're doing well. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next vlog. Bye, friends.